Hey, Connect family, and anybody that's listening, you might be somewhere else and enjoying this on YouTube now as a resource. Um, we are in what I refer to as day 22. Now, that's more a figure of speech than it is an actual day, but we have just come out of, many of us, 21 days of prayer and fasting. Now, this is what we do at Connect for many, many years, a corporate fast to bring the church together, to inspire unity, but really, if I'm really honest, it's one of the things that I realized I need as a pastor. I needed some public accountability to reinstate some private disciplines. It's a lot of times we have things that we profess with our mouth and confess with our mouth, you could say, but we're not practicing in our lives. In a fasting period, a prayer and fasting period, recalibrates our lives to reflect the things that we say we actually believe. Now, after 21 days is up, it's amazing how great it is by the time we get to day 21. The beginning, it's brutal. I mean, when you're making that pivot from just like kind of eating whatever you want, staying up late, all those things, and then suddenly you're saying no to certain things so you can say yes to others. You're malnourishing or undernourishing your mind and your body, and you're overnourishing your spirit. At first, it's rough, but by day 21, which is where some of you are today, or it's feeling great. And that's where I am. And so day 22, though, it's over. The fast is over. And it's kind of like begs the question, now what? Or, what should be my big takeaways from the last 21 days? So that's the kind of impetus and the background behind this. What I want to do now is I want to share fresh bread out of my 21 days of prayer and some things that I took away, and you can maybe apply them to your own life. So I'm gonna use my glasses because I'm 56, so bear with me. I was looking at the fast and I was asking myself some questions, like, how can things be better this year? And so one of the quotes that I put out is that a leader's greatest asset, many people would say it's time. Your greatest asset is time. The truth is, it's not just time, it's actually energy. I probably wouldn't, normally find a YouTube video post fast which talks about energy, but it relates to the fast because the fast begins to convince us that we need to be careful not to try to overproduce. So when you go into 2025, there is, especially in the American society and culture, a tendency to overproduce. What do you mean by that, Pastor Deryck? Well, let me demonstrate it with a little story. We'll call this the farm stand story, okay? So I want you to imagine wherever you live, somewhere in New England, you've certainly seen these local farm stands. Isn't it interesting? These are the places where you can get eggs and we can get fresh milk and you can get those vine-ripe tomatoes and sometimes in season peaches and things like that. And it's amazing. They're always in business and people always go there year after year after year in spite of all the other options we have, convenient and otherwise. Here's the thing. One of the things I learned about the farm stand, imagine this story. Two people go to the farm stand and they go to get eggs and tomatoes and they go to get milk, and at the end of the day these two people come to pay and the farm stand farmer basically says, hey, we've run out, there's no more tomatoes, there's no more milk, there's no more whatever it is they were looking for. One person walks away and is fine with that. The other person's kind of upset, and the farmer basically says this line that I want you to remember. He says, come back tomorrow, we'll have more. Come back tomorrow, we'll have more. Come back tomorrow, there's going to be more tomatoes because the tomato vines will ripe again. Come back tomorrow and the cows will replenish their milk. Come back tomorrow and the chickens will begin to kick out some more eggs again. Come back tomorrow, there'll always be more. Now, there's a tendency for so many of us to miss the importance of a principle inside there. See, the reality is of this farm stand is this. People keep coming there. Why? Why do people keep going to the farm stand? It's because what's there is fresh. What's there is the finest. Sure, you can go down the street to the the massive Walmart or the mega grocery store. But would you want a tomato from there, or would you want a tomato from the farm stand? Of course, you would want the finest and the best. But sometimes it requires a period of rest. There is a tendency for you, a tendency for me, to overproduce. So here's what I want you to think about on day 22. Day 22 representing kind of the rest of the year. What do we learn from our fast? We must leave time to recharge and to replenish, listen, every day. Every day. You've got to be able to recharge and replenish every day. My word of the year for me personally, not for our church, is this. Win the morning, win the day. Now I'm backing it up even further. I need to win the evening before so I can win the morning so that I can win the day. But the key is something needs to happen every day that causes a recharge. Boxers sometimes when they get ready to fight, they'll kick their arms out right before they get ready to punch, and they'll go like this. It's because they're reloading. See, everybody can't just keep producing. You can't just keep punching endlessly because you won't produce the finest and the best. Here's the second thing that I learned, and I'm going to give you two more. That is, with your energy, you've got to steward it really, really well. You've got to steward your energy. One of the things I took away from the fast is you only have so much time and energy, and it's the most precious asset we have, but we've got to steward our energy. See, a person with optimal energy, listen, can do more in 4 hours than somebody with no energy in 4 days. So I want you to see the win, the benefit of the recharge. You got to invest in those times of energy really, really wisely. I learned from another author of a book that I'm reading, and he did a study of people's energy flows. And we actually have 7 bursts of energy every day, 7 bursts, spikes. And if we can learn how to kind of almost like riding that wave, but understand that that wave is going to come down, and then there's different ebbs and flows to our day. So there's certain things we need to do within those spikes every day to get the maximum return, let's just say with our energy. So make sure you steward in 2025. Make sure you steward your energy well. Are you putting the most important things into those energy bursts? Have you spent time with the Lord? Have you spent time in self-care? Because self-care is not selfish, or whatever your domain of work is. Like for me, content creation, that's why I have notes right here, because I spend time in the morning producing content. There's things like communication, and there's coaching, and there's care, and there's time with my family and my wife. Those bursts of energy need to be applied wisely. Steward those energy bursts really wisely. Okay, last one, and I'll give you, and then I'm going to point to one thing into the final, phase of 20 as we go into 2025. So we want to make sure that we understand that the greatest asset is not just time, it's energy. We got to steward our energy well, and that means this is going to change your life, what I'm getting ready to tell you. Ready? This is going to change your life. You need to learn how to rest well. You say, Pastor, I've heard that a million times. You're going to start talking about the Sabbath and all that. Hold on. Let me tell you something. I don't even know if I've taught this before, but first of all, back it up with some thoughts. And that is, you're never more vulnerable than when you're tired and overwhelmed, okay? So you have to rest in 2025, everybody. You've got to be spending time regularly resting. Mark chapter 6, verse 31 says, come away. And in the end of the verse, it says, and rest a little while. Come away with God and rest a little while. Psalm 46:10, you know the verse, it says, be still and know that I am God. When's the last time you kind of hit pause? You just kind of let, I'll come back to this in a minute, the note ring in your life. And because a lot of times we don't do that. In music, I have a little bit of a musical background. I love to play guitar, and I used to sing on a regular basis. But one of the things I learned about music is when they write it out, the space between the notes is what makes the music. It's the space between the notes that makes the music. In fact, they have a term, it's called legato. Legato is a long note. It's a long note. It's like when a trumpet hits a long note. It's it's that musical note is a declaration that is saying life cannot be rushed. Life cannot be rushed. And the truth is, the fasting period has helped me see that it reveals sometimes our depravity. In other words, when I start to rest in the fast, in the beginning, I felt guilty. You know why I felt guilty? Because I felt like I wasn't producing and I should be producing. I felt like I was wasting time. I felt like I was squandering moments when I was not working. But that is a lie. And what happens is, and this is a question I would ask you, do you fill every empty space? And if you do, why do you do it? Why are you filling that space? A friend that used to work with us years ago, he used to say to me, Deryck, you schedule stress. You don't just have a busy schedule. You actually put stress onto your schedule. If you see an opening, you fill it with something else. And it's like a person who runs a marathon. The person who's running the marathon, if you had a good coach, and I remember going through this with my father when he ran the Boston Marathon 8 times. And I used to have to tell him, Dad, you need to be drinking water about every 15 to 30 minutes, about 6 ounces of water. And he'd say to me, what if I'm not thirsty? I said, Dad, that's irrelevant. In fact, if you wait till you're thirsty, it's too late. That's what we do sometimes with our soul. That's why this prayer and fasting period and the ability to sustain it requires that we understand the importance of energy, that we steward our energy well, and that we're good, not just at recharging, but resting, because you need time for your life, you could say, to catch up with your soul, or your soul to catch up really with your life. Because if you don't, it's like living in a dehydrated state. The time you actually need what you need, it's too late because you're spiritually dehydrated. If you wait till you're thirsty, Deryck, if you're a dad, I used to say, it's too late, Dad. So here's what I learned from Genesis. It says, excuse me, I'm gonna skip ahead here a little bit. When we talk about this idea of rest and how to rest well, I started looking at, remember how I said, win the morning, win the day? Then I said, win the evening, win the morning, win the day, right? So in Genesis, this is the part that's going to change your life. If I said to you, when does each day begin? I heard one guy say, when I start my coffee, right? No, okay. When does each day begin? Most people, 99% of people, when I open my eyes in the morning. Well, in the morning, that's when the day begins. Actually, it's not. According to the Bible, that's not when the day begins. Listen to this. Genesis 1, you see it in verse 5. You see it in verse 8. It says, in so many words, it says, so the evening and the morning were, and then it will say, the first day. And then in verse 8, it would say, the evening and the morning were the second day. And it goes on, and it repeats this pattern. The evening and the morning were the day. In other words, the day begins not when you open your eyes in the morning. Listen, the day begins when you put your head on the bed to rest. Why is that important? Okay, because the day doesn't begin with the morning, in the morning activity. The day begins with the evening rest. The evening rest. So the success of each and every day, this race we're in, is the success of your life. Every day in your life is affected by the start of the day, right? You know that. So if you're going to win, remember what I said before, win the morning, win the day? No, win the evening, win the morning, win the morning, win the day. So the success of your race in life is determined by how you start. So how you begin each day, if you can be more intentional with the start of your day, in the evening, you're going to be more successful in 2025. Think about it. See, there are 2 ways you can win a race, right? One way to win a race is to run faster. But the other way to win a race is to start earlier. You say, Pastor Deryck, that's cheating. Well, that's cheating if you're an Olympian, but it's not cheating if you're a Christian. See, an Olympic race, that would be cheating. But in the race of life, it's wisdom. It's wisdom. Start earlier. So I want to give you a little secret sauce in 2025. You've got to see energy, not just time, right? You've got to understand you got to steward your energy really, really wisely. You need to learn to rest well. But how do you rest well? You need to look at your evening better, because that's when the day begins. So, practical. Sleep on the front side of the clock better, not just on the back side of the clock better. So what happens is, a lot of times I have been the chiefest of sinners here, is you could stay up late, so then you decide, that's fine, I can just sleep in late. Right? Just think about this. How many times do we say, all right, I got to catch up on my sleep, so I'm just going to sleep in tomorrow. Listen, change where you make the change. Make the change on the front side of the clock, not the back side of the clock, and watch what happens in your life, because now you're learning how to rest well. Here's some facts for you, practical. If you sleep on the front side of the clock, not the back side, the best sleep, what they call REM and non-REM sleep, statistically happens between 11 and 3 a.m. In fact, if you don't get that sleep between 11 and 3 a.m., good, that highly restorative sleep, you're 50% less, and you have 50% less energy. So you could say, oh, I went to bed instead of at 10 or whatever, I went to bed at 1. Because it was between the 11 and 3, you lost 50% of your energy, even if you slept until 9 a.m. Again, God set something up where he wanted us to see the day begins in the evening, not in the, I hope this helps some of you guys. So if you're going to bed earlier, you're going to have a much more productive life. You're going to have more energy. You're going to be stewarding your energy better. So sleep time, you could say, doesn't equal rest. It's the best sleep that equals rest. Sleep right and double your rest. Sleep right and double your rest. So obviously we could talk about other things like exercise and other principles that can change your life. And I know you've heard that a million times, but I wanted to offer you something on day 22 that maybe you haven't heard before. Your greatest asset isn't time. Your greatest asset is energy. If you can learn to steward your energy well, and don't wait till you get thirsty, you're going to have a way better year. If you can see the day right and rest well and begin in the evening, then you win the evening, then you win the morning, then you're going to win your day. These things can change your life in 2025. These are some of my rest revelations from 21 days of prayer. I offer them to you. I hope they help you. Listen, if you had some kind of breakthrough revelation this year, maybe you got something like that from the Lord in your time with him. Maybe God touched your body. Maybe he healed something. Maybe there was a breakthrough in your life. Will you just let us know in the link below? We'd love to hear your testimonies so that we can spread the good news of what God is doing through Connect Church. And until I see you on the Lord's Day, God bless you. Thank you for taking the time to use this resource. Share it with somebody else, and I hope it blesses you. I'll see you soon.